Hello and welcome to Kansas. Finally, we're here after a enforced absence last week due to a few technical issues on iRacing's end. They were doing a bit of a server upgrade, so we did have to miss a race last week. But we haven't missed it, we've just postponed it. We are back here in Kansas for the latest round of the 131 at WebRadio ANZCAR Monday Night Truck Series. And joining us as always is Danny G. How you going, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm very good, thanks, Edward. I'm looking forward to tonight's race. It's like you say, it's been a couple of weeks, and these guys put on a good show, and Kansas is a good track for a good show.
Well, it seems like an age since we've been here, doesn't it? To see any of the ANZCAR racing at all after. Well, it was only away from a week, but you certainly do miss it when it's away. And I think most of these drivers, it'll be exactly the same scenario. So just watching a few guys out there for their practice at the moment, and we might just take this opportunity to run through the points. So we did get a bit of a mix-up with the points, a bit of a mixed order happened at the end of the last race when there were some technical issues that struck a few drivers late on, and it really did have a big effect on the final result of that one. So the championship standings as they sit at the moment is Michael Skurlock, a reigning champion, sitting there top of the table, but joining him absolutely level on points is the very impressive rookie Jason Williams. Then we've got Matt Danson, champion of a couple of seasons ago, don't forget. He's sitting about 5 points behind on 210 points. Going back behind, and then we've got Jackson Callow and Chris Purnell, who was the leader going into that into the last race. Has come out of that in 5th position, which really shows how closely packed all of these drivers have been. And then to the back end of the top 10, we've got Ricky Cornwall, Nick Walsh, Dave Douglas, Gavin Sadler, and Damon Stockton. So still packed very, very tightly. And below that top 10, I can assure you, it's still packed as tightly as ever behind those guys as well. So could see it all change again tonight, Daniel. So what are you expecting to see?
Well, honestly, I think Chris Purnell was a bit disappointed that he had that internet connection there at Talladega and sort of lost a lot of points. So he's only 9 back in 5th position. So I think we'll see him sort of come to the front, or at least he'll try and get up there and battle for it. He wants that points lead back for sure.
Definitely. And the one thing that may throw a bit of a spanner in the works is we're seeing for the first time this season, I believe, Braden Bullis out here tonight, who, if you remember back to such a dominant season, and I believe just in recent weeks he's actually obtained his pro license through iRacing as well. So he's certainly been on form racing in the official iRacing series for not only trucks but the Xfinity cars and the top level Cup cars as well. Basically anything that turns left, he'll jump in and drive it. So he's got his pro license now, sitting there in P2 in practice at the moment with the 2nd fastest time. And so as we go into qualifying, I think there'll be a lot of eyes on him as well to see what he's able to pull out.
Yeah, for sure. Congratulations. That's an awesome achievement. That truck looks pretty cool in that paint job, actually.
Yeah, it absolutely certainly does. So he's Braden's just getting around there in that Sparco paint job at the moment in the 01 truck. So keep an eye out for Braden as the race goes on tonight. And just looking at some of the practice tyres, there's some faster guys sort of sitting back in the pack a little way. It is quite a big field here tonight as well. And just as we're going into qualifying, I believe that Kansas is a little bit different to a lot of tracks where it's almost your second qualifying lap, which is the fast one rather than the first one. Is that how you found things?
Yeah, it is actually. It's one of those few tracks. It is a 1.5 mile track shaped sort of cookie cutter to like the rest of them, or similar to ones like Kentucky, Chicago, etc. But yeah, you sort of do get a lot more momentum on the second lap coming off turn 4, a lot more speed.
And that's something that we tend to see a little bit with these high groove racetracks, isn't it? A lot of these guys have migrated straight away to the top of the racetrack where they've been running through most of practice. Most of the fast times have been set up there. So as we move into qualifying now, just going to take a quick look through to see who's going to be heading out, early in the session, and we'll actually follow those guys around. So I'm just having a quick scroll through just to see who's ready to go. And we'll ride around with one of these guys on the qualifying. And as mentioned, I think we will actually see them migrate to the top of the racetrack very, very quick. All right, so we're just having a quick look at Ricky Cornwall now. He is just pulling out onto the track to start his first lap. And as we mentioned, he's just hugging onto that top line, running as close as he dares to the wall, just coming down off it a little bit there. And as he comes across to start his first lap, I mean, what are we expecting to see from Ricky? He's had some good runs. He's had some ordinary runs. How do you reckon the Kansas track's going to actually match up with his particular skill set tonight?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to sort of see. He was about a mid-pack driver there in practice, doing a 30.615. So we'll see what he gets sort of at the end of this lap. But he's always a good racer. He's always up there. So I don't think he'll struggle too much.
Well, a lot of guys seem to find something a bit extra for qualifying, and we're seeing Ricky just sort of run sort of that middle line rather than the top line. So we'll see what he comes across in his first lap with. And that's a 30.925, so that's not going to be fast enough at all. So winding up onto his second lap now, he'll definitely be hoping for something a little bit more special on this second.
Yeah, we'll see what he can do. Yeah, generally with that top lane coming off turn 4, if you just want to stick up there higher, he sort of could have pulled out a bit more speed at the end of the front stretch. We'll see what he does here if he ducks down. He sort of takes the middle route, stays up a little bit higher, I think, on his second lap. See what he comes across the line as.
Okay, so as he crosses the line now, we'll see what he comes back with. And it's only a 30.8, so I don't believe that is going to be quick enough to really threaten those front guys. And already there's quite a few guys slotting there in front of him. All right, so we're just moving across now. We'll just have a quick look at Jackson Callow. He's actually finished his qualifying run, and he's sitting there at the top of the timesheets at the moment with a 30.574. So he's actually finished his run. So we'll just continue looking through here to see who's about to start their run off. And I can see Ryan Jones in the number 11. He's coming out of the pits, and he's another one who's really sort of, I'd say in this particular truck season, really come of age. Really seems to stay out of trouble a lot more than he did in the early part of his ANZCAR career. And I'd be hoping for an impressive run from him. In practice, he was sort of there or thereabouts. So I'd hope to see a nice run from him here in qualifying as well, as he pulls out onto the high banks for the first time and gets ready to start his first flying lap.
Yeah, and speaking of the times in that first practice session, I mean, it was only 3/10 that pretty much separated first. We're on like 30th or how many trucks got here tonight. So it's all pretty close. Not talking about much.
No, there's certainly not too much in it. And the reason for that is every time that you see one of these tracks where the times are very, very close, you can pretty much bet that the drivers are holding it wide open throughout the lap. And so there's very, very little difference between them because they're not really doing a great deal with the throttle. And that's certainly the case here on fresh tyres running that high line. You can hold that throttle flat to the boards the entire way out if you get your steering inputs right. And it looks as though Ryan's certainly managed to do that in practice. It's not such a good first lap, 30.945, but we'll stick with him to see what he's able to gain out of the next lap. He's dropping a little bit lower this lap, actually, through turns 1 and 2. So just wondering if that's sacrificing maybe a bit of a run off the turns in order to gain a bit through the mid-corner or something like that. But he seems to be sticking a bit higher through 3 and 4 before dropping down, and expect to see him run across the apron here. He does do that indeed, and he's just going to cross the line and goes 30.6.52, which put him 5th for a moment until he got knocked back into 6th position.
Yeah, and Braden Boulos is he hasn't ended up in pole position. He's still behind Callow. That's how they finished in practice too.
Yeah, certainly. So Callow beats out the pro for qualifying at the very least. So just taking another quick look through these drivers. We've got Raymond Yeager out there at the moment as well. He has finished his timed lap, so we won't stay with him. Having a look back through the field as well, we've actually got Matthew Clute. He is sitting at the end of the pit lane at the moment in that number 54 middle finger racing truck, and he's just actually pulling out of his lane to start his qualifying run. So we might see what Clute's able to offer tonight.
Yeah, and he was about 10th in practice with a 30.6, and so I guess the top time now is 30.5. He's only a 10th off. We'll see if he can hold it wide open and sort of get up to the front.
Well, the interesting thing I've actually seen about Clute in this truck season in particular is he's almost been a little bit opposed to the way in which he would normally normally drive. He's normally been very, very quick in qualifying and then would find some sort of trouble in the race and things haven't necessarily gone his way. But he's in this series, he's sort of been qualifying a little bit lower than normal, but then sort of mid-race, he just sort of pops up in that battle for the lead. So I wonder if we're going to see a similar pattern tonight from him.
Yeah, you're right. It does seem like he was at the top there of his game, about a season ago. And you're right, he sort of does seem to be mired back down there in the mid-pack. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, he does seem to be racing a lot better. I think he's racing a lot more consistently than he may have been earlier on. And he did something a little bit different to what the other guys did. He actually stayed high through to start this first flying lap. So I think he was really focusing on carrying as much speed as he possibly could through that first lap. He's really sacrificed that first lap to try and get the best possible time on this second one. So I think this second one is going to be the one to watch out for. He only did a 30.9 on that first lap, but I reckon coming around for this second lap, he's just sort of staying up nice and high, carrying as much of that speed as he can through. And as he comes off turn 4, he's going to cross the line, ducks down below onto the apron, and he is going to do that's a very good lap actually, P1. So I think definitely he's gone the right way about it, and that is going to make quite a few drivers sit up and take notice.
Yeah, so I think they must be sort of sacrificing in on that first lap in turns 1 and 2. They must be just sort of hesitating on the throttle and then making sure that they can basically pull turns 3 and 4 wide open and get that big run down the front stretch to start the second lap.
Okay, so just looking at the number 98 of Jason Williams now, he is on his first lap, and as we've seen so far, the first laps aren't necessarily the fastest laps, so we'll see see how Stephen approaches this. You'll notice that paint scheme has changed for that team. As Alliance Motorsports is now Illusion Motorsports. They've also changed the paint scheme to go along with that. And Brett Douglas, who drives for this team and who you often hear on Performance E Streaming, has actually taken on an ownership role alongside Chris Purnell in that squad. So expect some changes there. But just watching this second lap, once again, first lap, Stephen Williams did not set the world on fire, only a 30.9, but we've seen a lot of guys do 30.9s on that first lap and then pop up with something a lot better on the second lap. So just as he comes out of turn 4 here and through the tri-oval, ducks down onto the apron as all the rest of them have done, and he's gone P6 with a 30.608, so that's pretty solid from Stephen Williams.
Yeah, it is not a bad run at all, and this is the first time I've seen these cars on track, and yeah, the paint schemes look very slick. Well done. All
right, so we're just looking at the number 313 of Ben Doherty at the moment. You remember him as being the runner-up from last truck season in that nail-biting season finale with Michael Skurlock. So he's, I was just about to say he was starting his first lap the same way as Clute had, but he hasn't done. He's ended up ducking down quite low, not all the way to the apron. He's actually running the low groove through the turns, a lot lower than we've seen anybody else. So we'll see what he's able to pull out for this lap, doing something completely different to the other guys.
Man, the old Hot Wheels truck looks pretty cool, that light blue. I haven't seen that on a truck or a car for a while. Brings me back.
All right, so Ben Doherty now just crossing the line down onto the apron. That's his first lap out the way, and he's done a 30.7, so that was a faster first lap than we've seen from a lot of people. And now he's running that high line. Seems like a little bit of an odd, I guess, methodology. Not to build up all the speed on the first lap, and it really does seem as though he's not going to get the run onto his faster second lap as he would have done if he'd stayed high the entire way around. But we'll see what happens. And he has come across the line, and he's improved the lap time, but he hasn't improved the position, starting P20. So that didn't work out for him at all.
No, it didn't. Yeah, those lines were completely different to anybody else that I sort of was seeing out there. He's stuck very high on his second lap through turns 3 and 4, and it just didn't pay off.
Okay, so just having a bit of a look through now just to see if there's anybody else out there willing to set a time. There's only about 30 seconds left to go in qualifying, and I think that most of the other drivers, we've got a few down there who haven't set times. Chris Purnell hasn't set a time yet, neither has Mick Taylor, Stacey Walker, Brian Richmond, Aaron Wilton or Robert Northway. None of those guys have actually set times in qualifying, so they will be starting near the back of the grid.
Yeah, they will. This is going to be interesting. Going to be a good race. I think we're going to see a lot of passing, a lot of close action. In the previous races we've seen here before, like the history of this track's always been close, sort of pack racing. A lot of cautions though. But yeah, we'll see what happens tonight. These guys are pretty capable of doing this, and they've been great all season, and that's not going to end today.
Okay, just seeing a bit of news come filtering through that I believe Braden Boulis is going to be starting from the pit lane. He's not going to be taking his position on the second row. Not quite sure why that is, but he does look like he's going to be gridding up. So just having a look now as a few of the cars just start to grid up in the pit lane. So we might actually just run through your qualifying grid order for the start of this race. As mentioned, there's going to be a couple of guys that looks as though are starting for the pit lane, but we'll run through them in the order that they've qualified. So we've got Matty Clute there. As we saw, we're riding with him at the time that he took that awesome pole position, 30.526, and right next to him on the front row, we've got Jackson Callow, only a fraction of a second behind him. Then going back to row 2, Braden Boulis, who is starting from the pit lane, and John Sorensen. Then Nicholas Walsh and Michael Skurlock on row 3, Stephen Williams and Darren McKenzie, DMAC there on row 4. Got Gavin Sadler and Aaron Dillon there on row 5. Row 6, Damon Stockton and Dwayne Priest. Row 7, Raymond Yeager and Ryan Jones. Riley Curtis and Jason Williams, the teammates, make up row, I believe it's 8 by now. Yes, row 8. Row 9, Brelly Cheney and Dave Douglas. Then going back further than that, we've got Matt Hunter and Matt Danson, the two Matts qualifying in identical qualifying times, 30.684. Then Ben Doherty, Jason Nicholas. Haven't seen him around for a little while, actually. It's good to see him back in the truck series. Ricky Cornwall, Phil Otto, Will Barrington. Not probably the qualifying effort he would have wanted. Michael Latter, Tristan Koch, and then you've got your drivers who did not elect to send a qualifying time, and that is Chris Purnell, Robert Northway, Aaron Wilton, Stacey Walker, Brian Richmond, and Mick Taylor, rounding out your field of 32 trucks tonight.
Yeah, and it might be actually a smart move going to the back of the field early. They can sort of just hang at the back there. They're probably expecting it here. We've got at least 32 trucks entered. I'm not sure how many are taking the grid, but yeah, probably sort of staying out of the way. You never know how these races are going to go. The accidents can happen anywhere on the track.
But at the same time, being a high groove racetrack, it's by their very nature, high groove racetracks are difficult to overtake. So even if you do have the skills of a Braden Boulis or someone like that, who's definitely got the ability to work his way through a field over the course of a race, it's a lot harder to overtake at a high groove racetrack than it is at a low groove racetrack. And I'm surprised that he'd give himself that problem. I know that he wants to fight his way through the field and perhaps have some fun overtaking some cars, given the fact that he's not really in the running for the championship. But at the same time, he's given himself a lot of work to do. And personally, I think I would have taken that P3 on the grid, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. He's like, third place. I don't know why you'd give that up. We're about to go green flag, but yeah, I can only think. I'm not even sure. We'll just go to the race.
Okay, so the race itself, we won't have to wait too long to go to the race because we are about to go racing. So the pace car is, as it always is on the pace lap, lights out. They are filling up 2 by 2. The pace car is off. Matty Clute now controls the field, and when he goes, everyone can go. So just waiting now. It looks like he's just leading it down to the green, and he's gone. And it's a very even start between the two front row trucks. Callow sitting in there quite well on the outside, and knowing the way this track is, I wouldn't be surprised to see Callow just nab the lead on the back stretch here.
Yeah, we'll see. I think Matty can pretty much just floor it on the first lap. See if he gets up in front. He does cover that position, but it was a great start there by Callow. He stuck with.
Yeah, certainly has done. So these two have got a little bit of a breakaway going on, actually. The guys behind them, there's a little bit of a gap sort of back there to Nicholas Walsh there in the number 22, who got a good start there from 4th position. And a lot of the other trucks, as we cross the line to start the lap, are still running 2 by 2 by 2 further back there in the pack. And I think as this run goes on, you're going to see that top line start to move forward.
Yeah, I think you get about probably 2 to 5 laps on the bottom. You can sort of hold that line, but yeah, then that groove's going to move up to the top. They're going to get a lot better runs coming off the corners, and that's on the top lane.
All right, so it's all staying pretty status quo at the front at the moment, but sort of looking back in the pack, there's a great battle going on. Darren McKenzie's in there, I think Ryan Jones is in there as well. 777 and Dwayne Priest is in amongst that one as well. And I think Skurlock's in that one as well, where they're all sort of running very, very tightly bunched up. And I imagine if they're going to have from this group at the moment, Darren McKenzie Darren McKenzie has gotten right into the back of Michael Skurlock and turned around a whole bunch of trucks. Yeah, that was messy. That was messy.
Yeah, it was. Looks like Mackenzie does get into the back of him and, yeah, turns him around. At least 5 trucks involved.
Yeah, that was a shame. I mean, we were just saying, I think I just said if there's going to be a wreck, this is where it's going to come from. It looks as though Mackenzie's just got off the turn a little bit better than Skurlock did, and he's pitched Skurlock into the side of Stockton, I believe that was. And a whole bunch of guys have gone bouncing off. I think Cheney's involved in that as well. Who else is there? I think Hunter's in it, Phil Otto's in it. Yeah, that's a shame. That's a shame. It looks as though Michael Skurlock actually might have got away not too bad from that, damage-wise. I think a few of the others haven't been so lucky.
Yeah, I was just taking a look to see if Skurlock actually got loose coming off the corner. I'm not too sure. But, yeah, he didn't seem to cop too much damage. A little bit on the front, on the rear, but and I actually he's going to have a fair bit of damage. The 013 got him in the side pretty good.
Yeah, on second looks, it does look as though he's got a little bit more damage there than maybe we first thought. So we are under caution anyway, and these the trucks that were involved are going to pull up to the pace car and start to bunch up behind it. I don't think we're going to really see anyone diving for the pits yet, except for those guys who are carrying a little bit of damage. I know I can see, I think Ryan Jones is headed for the pits there. I can see Raymond Yeager there as well. Darren McKenzie's definitely in there, and yeah, a few of the guys who are a little bit further back and were probably involved in that incident have taken to the pit lane, and also I think Phil Otto has taken that truck behind the wall as well, and I think he copped quite a bad hit in that first incident. So unfortunately, his race is not planned out the way he wanted.
No, it's not. This is probably sort of a product of why those guys stayed or elected to sort of start at the back from the pit. You know, they missed all that. It didn't happen right at the front. Could have.
Yeah, it certainly could have, but you know, those guys who are out there at the front are absolutely squeaky clean, and they didn't have to do any dodging. So, you know, I'd still personally rather be up the front. But anyway, we've seen the guys who did start from the back. It looks as though Matt Danson, who's Braden Bullis' teammate, they actually both elected to start from the back, and they're sitting there in 22nd and 23rd position at the moment. I think just about the only trucks that they passed were the ones who were involved in that incident. So, but anyway, I think Matty Clute will be happy with the way he got away on that first start, able to be tucking up in front of Callow, as we saw. Really did think as though Callow might have the advantage there on the outside, but Clute managed to hold on. So, do you reckon he's got to adopt a different technique this time to try and get a bit more of a jump on Callow?
I think, you know, at the start of the races, these guys sort of wait for the green flag to drop, so it's a bit easier to gauge, possibly when you're in second. But from these restarts, it's sort of up to the leader at that stage, and the leader usually does get that better run. I've seen it more lately, though. I think people have been getting a lot of practice at it, starting to sort of get it a lot better, sort of stick with them.
Yeah, it definitely is a skill starting, and we talk about it all the time, don't we? Sitting on the outside of row one like that, it's very, very difficult, because you really need to look out of your peripheral vision to see where these guys are actually, when the leader's actually going, because it's obviously his call to make when he wants to go. So very hard to see out of your peripheral vision. There's nobody else in front of you that you can gauge your start off. So it's a bit of a skill. It's definitely a bit of a skill. And as you say, I think there are quite a few drivers in this now who are getting quite good at it.
Yeah, they definitely are. And I think also at Kansas, you're pretty much foot to the floor through turns 1 and 2. So if you can just get the inside lane, you're sort of taking the shorter way around the circuit. And that's why Matty Clark was able to sort of clear him off turn 2. Where usually, you know, the second lap in, you'd get the run on the high side.
Okay, so as they just roll around under the pace car at the moment, there's not been a great amount of change in the order since the start of this race. Only, I guess, those few guys who are involved in that incident at the beginning. But they are one to go now. They're fanning out 2 by 2 by 2 all the way down the field. And I guess we're going to keep an eye on some of those guys who start a little bit further in the pack as well that we did mention. So Bullis, Danson, Purnell, those guys who start down towards the back. Jason Williams as well. He's our joint championship leader down there in 25th position at the moment. So a few guys rolling around there. It looks as though Jason Williams may have actually picked up a piece of that damage in that incident. He doesn't look badly damaged, but he's going to be up against it if he wants to retain his championship lead tonight, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think these guys in the back, they're pretty much going to have to do a lot of work on the restarts, you know, when they can use the bottom. Pretty much in those first 5 laps, I think you're going to have to try and pass as many trucks as you can, because like I said a little bit earlier, you can't afford to sort of all get single file up there in the top lane with 10, 15, 20 lap worn tyres. You're just never going to make the pass.
No, it doesn't matter, pro or not, you're not going to get that done. So anyway, so 2x2 coming to the start line at the moment, start-finish line, ready for the pace car to dive off, and we're going to get underway again. So the field is under Matty Clute's control, and he's gone early this time, so he really wanted to make sure that he got up ahead of Callow, and he's definitely taken steps to do that. So he's going to lead them away. And just looking back in the pack now, everyone's kind of very closely bunched up, as you sort of expect. And just as we look down a little bit further through the pack, it looks as though everyone's behaving themselves reasonably well.
Yeah, they are. Sort of the top field sort of split out of there into single file racing. We're still getting racing in the mid pack, but no, they're all behaving at the moment. It's pretty good.
So just taking a look at that lead battle, we've got Clute leading Callow, leading Sorensen, who's got the better of Walsh on that restart, sort of reversed that position from the start. Gavin Sadler up there as well in the number 71, running quite well. His teammate James Robbie, who won the last K&N race that we held, which was a week ago now as well, a couple of weeks ago actually, not making the field tonight, unfortunately. So Gavin's out there basically by himself. I believe he does have one teammate out there. I think it's Northway, who's actually just signed up with that group. So Robert Northway, who's with them, I think, in the number 33, I believe it is.
Yeah, it is. So two of those trucks out here tonight. They look pretty good there and fiery. And yeah, Gav knows what he's doing. It's a pretty good racer. We've seen him up there in a lot of series lately. So he's sitting there in 5th position now. He's got to be liking that.
Absolutely, he might. One person who would be liking things at the moment is Jackson Callow. He's closed right up on the back of Clute and really does look as though he's going to at least attempt a move for the lead. Like we say, Clute's only really giving the opportunity of making that move on the bottom. It's quite hard to make moves on the bottom around here, as we've spoken about. But if he wants to do it, he's really going to have to do it sooner rather than later before those tyres start to burn off. And I'm not sure there's enough of a pace differential there to actually get that done. But you've seen how aggressive Callow can be, and if anyone's going to do it, he'll definitely have a crack. Don't you worry.
Yeah, and he's right on the back of him now, only half a truck length away. He looks on the inside of Matty Clute going to turn 3. Can't get there. Maybe he can just get to the rear spoiler, push Matty up the track, which he seems to have done. I don't know if he's going to get the run on the front stretch, though. He's got the inside line.
Yeah, he's trying to work that draft, isn't he? He's sort of trying to work the draft because you kind of are a little bit aero limited around here as well. He's just trying to stick there and maybe try and send his nose just a little bit, maybe half a truck width underneath what Clute's running at the moment, trying to just get a little bit of air on that front splitter, get that truck turned and perhaps get a better run off. But Clute's doing a sterling job up front at the moment, not looking like making any errors.
Oh, he's definitely doing a good job. The other thing that's quite frustrating when you're racing here is even if Callow does get the run on the front stretch, he knows he can't go to the bottom and try and dive bomb and go through the inside because the top lane just prevails every lap. So it is frustrating. You've got to try and get to the outside of them. I don't know if he's faking Clute to sort of come down so he can get that outside run, but yeah, I don't know how he's going to make this pass.
Yeah, it's not easy, is it? You've almost got to get a really, really good run off the turn and hope the guy in front of you makes a bit of a mistake, might have to correct or something like that, which pulls him away from the wall. Then you can use your momentum to sort of get between him and the top line away from him. But definitely relying on the other driver being at least cooperative, if not outright making a mistake. So just looking at some of the chat there as well on our broadcast, we've got Phil Otto, who we saw getting eliminated quite early on in that incident, just saying that you can't win on lap 1, and some people need to remember that. And I think that's probably a good piece of advice for real racers and sim racers alike.
Yeah, fair call. It was pretty early. Took out a few good trucks there.
Yeah, certainly a bit of a shame, and Matt Hunter involved in that one as well. He's just saying that the racing out there is just so full on. No one's lifting and no one's cutting anyone any slack at all. So maybe behave your best safe at the end of the race rather than the start. But unfortunately, sees those two guys dropping out so early on. But the battle for the lead seems to have stretched out a little bit now. It seems as though Jackson may have burnt his tyres up a little bit, or maybe he's just kind of taking a bit of a breather off the back of Clute and preparing for another attack. But Clute looking very, very solid there out front at the moment. And looking back even further from them, we've got a nice little battle pack forming, actually, comprising Gavin Sadler, Riley Curtis. We've got Ricky Cornwall in there. And we've got... who else is in there? Is that? I believe it's Ben Daly. Yeah, in the 313 is Cornwall, and he nearly together, as Doherty just trying to do exactly what we were talking about earlier on and steal that high line away from Cornwall. And if you look at Curtis on the back of Sadler, he's doing the exact same thing, and he's actually been a lot more successful at it, just trying to steal that top line away from Sadler. He's got a bit of overlap there at the moment. That's going to stop Gavin from climbing back up the track to exactly where he wants to be. And Sadler knows he's there. He's holding on to the bottom line, but look at the run that Curtis gets around the outside there. That is how you overtake at Kansas.
Yeah, and that just illustrates that inside run. It doesn't matter if you go down there with the lead, you just can't come out of the corners with it.
And it looks as though Cornwall's having a look on the bottom. I don't think that's going to come off. I think mid-corner onwards, yep, you do. You see Sadler and Doherty just getting the best of him there, getting that really nice run from. It's really from about mid-corner onwards, isn't it, that benefit of the outside track really comes into its own, and you just see those trucks on the outside line just shoot forward.
Yeah, just like Stephen Williams here, if he can just get off that corner, which he does, and he just drives away, especially in the draft too. He's going to drive into turn 3 here on the high side and get a good run off turn 4. Yeah,
that definitely seems to be what he's aiming at. And back in the broadcast chat as well, we've got D-Mac there, Darren McKenzie. He's certain that Skurlock actually lifted coming off that corner. If you do remember, we saw McKenzie getting to the back of Skurlock, and certainly in McKenzie's opinion, it appears as though he believes Skurlock has lifted the throttle coming out of the turn. So you might be right, Dan. He might have got a bit loose or something of that nature, and it's resulted in the accident, unfortunately. So unfortunate for those guys, as we keep saying. Never good to be taken out so early on.
Yeah, no, that's why I went back and had a look at it. I just wasn't sure. Just something looked odd. It looked like the rear end did step out before the contact.
Okay, so just seeing a few guys going past. I think that's Bradley Cheney, who's getting lapped there at the moment. I think he's carrying a fair bit of damage. He's running 3 laps down at the moment, so he's going to be off the pace. We're having a look at I believe it's... Oh, we've actually got a caution out. Caution out. Just trying to have a quick look to see if we can find who was involved.
Chris Purnell, I know he got involved, but it looks like the 33 truck of Robert Northway. Looks like Braden Bullos has got on the inside of him going into turn 1 and spun the 33 up the track, and Chris Purnell nowhere to go. It's been collected.
Well, that's unfortunate, certainly, if that's the case. Looks as though, yeah, I mean, Danny, if you can call it, I haven't quite been able to find the incident.
Yeah, so it just happened in turn 1. It looks like Chris Purnell, well, he just sort of ran to the back of everybody, but yeah, Braden Bullos looked to be passing Robert Northway into turn 1, and Northway, I don't know if they've come down or they've just made contact. Maybe Bullos could have given him a little bit more room, but the 33 went up in the wall, and unfortunately Chris Purnell had nowhere to go and sort of run into it. Yeah,
look, that's very unfortunate. Just sort of taking a look back through it at the moment as well. It looks like just one of those incidents that comes from a bit of impatience on a track where it is hard to pass. You've got to remember, most of these ovals, they're very, very easy to get around people if you've got a pace advantage. Not so here. So just having a look at the drivers entering the pits now. And I think Callow got very close to the back of Clute there. It might have actually, yeah, as they came into the pit lane. So not really sure. It looks as though Clute is carrying a very small amount of damage on that rear tailgate, and I believe that Callow actually got into the back of him as they break down to the line.
Yeah, I'll go back and have a look at it, but yeah, definitely looks like there is a bit of touch of damage there on the rear end of Clot.
All right, so they're taking service anyway. The leaders are taking service, so we've got Clute there in the lead. Looks as though he's actually been jumped by a good few trucks, Clute, so I'm not sure if he stayed to repair the damage, but Clute is still in the pits, and I'm not sure.
He did got quite a bit of a hit there on entry.
I'm not sure that he'd stay to repair that damage now. I wonder, and this is only a guess, but I wonder if when he got hit in the back by Callow, he's actually copped the speeding penalty.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
It's not something you see too often. I don't think I've ever seen that before, but if he copped a big enough whack in the back and he was right on that pit speed limit anyway, there's every opportunity to say that he would have got pushed over the speed limit, and iRacing may have actually pinged him for speeding in the pit lane, because he has lost a ton of position. I hope that's not the case, but that, whatever the case is, your race leader, Matty Clute, has wound up right near the back of the field.
Oh, I believe that's exactly what's happened, Edward. He's pretty much copped the hit just as he's crossing the pit entry line for the cone, the yellow cone, and he's definitely gone forward. He's been moved with a lot of energy. I think that's exactly what's happened.
Oh, right. So we've also got Callow, who was involved in that. I'm not sure if he may have gotten a bit of a penalty as well, but he's sort of sitting in place at the moment. So he's dropped a huge amount in the pits as well. Not as much as poor old Matty Kloop, but he's dropped a fair way back. So that actually leaves us at the moment, and I'm just looking to see, because I think that leaves us with Sorensen, John Sorensen in the lead ahead of Riley Curtis. That's certainly what the scoring is showing at the moment. We will wait for it to update as it comes across the line, because it will update the positions again. But I think everybody there ahead of Sorensen is just actually Mackenzie. They're ahead of Sorensen, and we know that Mackenzie isn't leading this race. He's had some accident damage repaired, and he's back out on track, waiting to come back past the pace car. So Sorensen, your leader. So the complexion of the race changes.
It does, and I think Matty Clewitz now he's left. They left going to the garage. Looks like he lost an engine there in turn 3 and 4, trying to catch up to the pack, and he sort of spun back out into the grass, and obviously his race is done for the day.
Well, big shame for him as well. So, anyway, I don't even know what to make of the start of this race. It's been a little bit all over the place. We're 24 laps in, seen a couple of wrecks, and seen the whole complexion of the race change. So, just as they do fan out 2 by 2 again, it means that the lights on the pace car are out. Everybody's going to get ready to go. So do you think that the way that we've seen this race start off, it's almost just because we've had that long break, it's almost a little bit of a start of season feeling where everybody's going for every little point that they can possibly grab to get the best start possible. But maybe it's just a little bit of pent-up frustration or lack of practice or something like that. But something's causing these guys to get into each other. I guess the venue being quite hard to overtake doesn't help that either.
Yeah, we've been off for 2 weeks, so sort of, like you say, some built-up anxiety there. They sort of want to get racing. Yeah, some unusual sort of faces up there at the moment. It's going to make for a good race when they get back to green here shortly.
Well, we did talk about Will Barrington at the start, didn't we? Wanting to get a better qualifying than his 25th position. He's 3rd at the moment. So it's worked out for a few people. Riley Curtis up from 15th to 2nd. Ben Doherty 21st to 5th. So there's a few guys making big moves out there, just taking advantage of these little issues. And if they can sort themselves out and get on a nice green flag run, we're going to see who's going to be best on their tyres as well. But field under Sorensen's control at the moment. He goes quite early. Looks as though Curtis is going to be hanging on around the outside of Barrington. But from what we've seen on these starts, it almost looks as though Barrington should be able to keep that throttle pinned and take that 2nd place over, just as we look down a little bit further in the field as well, and we can see Dave Douglas just getting down the inside of Doherty and taking that position as well. So I think Doherty just trying to get up the track and try and take the line away from Ricky Cornwall, but Ricky had an overlap, and Cornwall's going to make that position on him as well.
Yeah, Doherty's having a look on the inside. The 86s look pretty quick down there too. Dave Douglas now looking on the inside.
Yeah, they're a bit all over the place, aren't they? So Dave Douglas right down there on the apron, as you see, and he's going to try and make that inside line work on the inside of his team boss, Riley Curtis. And he's actually made that move stick. I think Riley was a little bit nice to him there. He's trying to get a move done on Will Barrington, but I think Barrington is probably going to be able to hang on around that outside. But Douglas has just got a slight amount of overlap and has actually got that done. He's actually got that done. So that was a quite impressive piece of driving there to round up all those guys, and has now moved up to, I believe it's 3rd position.
Yeah, it's a great restart. I think he started back there in like 8th or 10th or something.
2nd, actually. He's rounded up Gavin Sadler for 2nd position. So it's now John Sorensen, Dave Douglas, Gavin Sadler, and Will Barrington just copping it. Has got into the tail of Will Barrington, spun him around, and Cornwall's involved as well. Stacey Walker involved on his roof.
Yeah, that was definitely a big one. I'm just trying to see what happened to Barrington, if he got loose or Riley just got into him. From initial, I'd have to say Riley sort of just got into him there.
Yeah, it's almost at that point where everyone's accelerating off that turn, and it just appeared for whatever reason that, and it's really hard to see from our point of view, but there was certainly suddenly a great pace differential between, and I don't know why that was. I don't know if Barrington wasn't as hard on the throttle as he might have been, or whether Riley just came in there too hot, but definitely Curtis into the back of Barrington. It's taken Doherty, it's taken Cornwall, and those guys who were right running up there together. It's been a bit of painful couple of laps. Everything was looking so good for them, and now they're right down where they don't want to be, where they'd worked so hard to get up from.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what happened to Barrington, but yeah, there was just, like you say, a big differential in in the speed there. Like everyone behind them actually caught Barrington pretty quickly, so he might have gotten a little bit loose during the sort of the middle of that corner, and caused him to slow up, and everyone ran in the back of him.
Yeah, it's so hard to tell from outside what the scenario actually is, and I'm just actually myself just sort of scrolling back through to try and find a little bit about what actually took place there and see what caused that one. But I'm just having a look at these two at the moment. Those two guys who originally started that one, and just see if we can dissect it maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the cockpit camera, and he definitely got off the throttle, and that's so he definitely slowed up there.
Yeah, just watching it myself actually, and yeah, Curtis right in there behind Barrington. Yeah, you'd say Barrington really did look as though possibly Barrington was a little bit worried about hitting that outside wall, because he did duck a bit low in that turn. And of course, if you want to keep it flat, you want to keep the throttle really wound up, you've got to stick up there close to the wall. And it appeared as though Barrington had maybe gone a little bit below that, although he wasn't as low as Sadler was. So, but he had gone quite low, and then he's come back up and he has got out of the throttle. I think he was worried about tagging that outside wall, and it's just had the old domino effect in behind him and caught out a couple of innocent trucks, unfortunately. You see Walker and Walsh and those guys that didn't really have anything to do with that accident, getting caught up in it.
Yeah, you're probably right. That transition from turn 2 onto the backstretch, if you are up there, you can't come off there and hit the ball. It's not hard to do. So yeah, and I mean, the longer these guys run, the groove's getting higher and higher up towards the wall. And yeah, I think you're probably right.
And the problem is as well, I mean, people say that cautions breed cautions all the time, but what do they actually mean by that? Why does that happen? And a lot of people think it's just because you go back under pace car and everybody gets bunched up again. But little short stints that you get in a race, the more that you get these short little stints but punctuated by loads of little cautions, the more important these green flag laps become, and the more desperate the drivers get, because they expect that there's going to be another caution soon, and the restart and the first couple of laps after the restart is the only opportunity they're going to have to make places. And that's what happens in races like this. They start to think that they really have to get all the moves they want to make, they've got to get them done ASAP before the next caution. And that in itself creates more cautions, because as a couple of the drivers have said now, that no one's lifting, nobody's giving any space. And I think as the race goes on, unless a few guys sort of calm down and want to try and settle into these longer green flag runs, we're going to see more of that. I think it's going to get to the case where these guys are getting desperate to get their moves done. In that scenario, you're only going to have one ending. And unfortunately, it's got to be more caution. So I hope that's not the case. But certainly in terms of why it happens that way, that is a very big reason as to why you find that these cautions breed cautions, as the old saying goes.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, these guys usually do settle down. We'll probably get a good green flag run after this. And it's pretty fun to see these guys on a green flag run, especially these sorts of trucks on this track getting loose. When the handling comes into play. So I hope these guys can settle down, and we got another 70 laps to go.
Yeah, so they're out too wide again, 2 by 2, meaning we're about to go green once more. So John Sorensen and Dave Douglas there sharing the front row, with Gavin Sadler, Ben Doherty in behind them. And Braden Ball has started at the back. He's made his way up to 7th. Keep an eye on him as well. And we'll see what these guys are able to do, if we're going to get some clean laps in, or if they're going to keep bouncing off each other.
Yeah, we'll just have to see what happens. Yeah, Braden Bullis, he's sort of coming on the inside here. I'm not sure what he's doing. On the inside, passing the leaders. But yeah, you got Matt Danson sort of stuck there back in 10th as well, and he's coming to the front. Doesn't look like he's got any damage on his truck, as the car's come out of turn 4. We're about to go back green.
Okay, and Braden Bullis has just disappeared, actually, so I'm not quite sure what's happened with him. I haven't seen a notification his connection has dropped out, but he was definitely down there on that apron. But anyway, Sorensen has got away really, really very well. Dave Douglas has not got away well at all. Looks as though he's going to surrender that second position to Gavin Sadler. Sadler gets it done even before turn 1, and Doherty got really badly held up by that as well. So if you're watching through there, Douglas trying to get the move done on the bottom. Sadler actually trying his best to pinch him down. As you know, for the first couple of laps, that bottom line can work. So I think you're going to see Sadler run Douglas down as close to that bottom line as he possibly can, to try and give Douglas less track to work with and hang on to that P2.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to concern Dave too much, because he's going to get a good run on the inside here. just sort of stick his car beside him. I don't know if he can though, so he might not get the inside run now.
No, it appears as though Sadler's got that done. So looking a bit further back as well, we've got Ryan Jones and Raymond Yeager trying to make that bottom line work underneath. I believe it's Skurlock there and Doherty. And Dwayne Priest just hanging around there. Aaron Wilson, I haven't talked too much about Aaron Wilson tonight actually, but he's in the mix as well. So as these guys sort of sorting themselves out, I think Ryan Jones is the only one now who's sort of left on that bottom line. Everybody else trying to get that top groove to work.
Yeah, he definitely is. He doesn't want to be down there, but you got another pack sort of forming behind, but no, they all stick up there, but he's just slotted in now.
Okay, and we finally got confirmation that Braden Bullis has suffered a connection issue. So unfortunately, that's taken him out of the night's running. That's for sure. I don't think he'll be able to come back from a couple of laps down and win this thing. So just having a look back at Ryan Jones, I think he got a piece of the wall there as well. Just gave it a bit of a rub. No harm done. Carry on.
And you got Wayne Priest up there too. He's also in 8th position. He's carrying a little bit of front end damage by the looks of it, but he looks pretty racy. Danson stuck back there in 10th. I'm not sure if he's just sort of sitting back for a little bit, waiting for these guys to sort themselves out or not.
Well, Danson's actually quite strategic a lot of the time, isn't he? You kind of see him sit back. If you remember back in Talladega, him and Josh Micklemore, those guys were just hanging back in the pack, and they hung back all race. And we were sitting there saying, weren't we, Dan, that they needed to go now. And eventually they did go and managed to pull a result out of it in the end. So it's certainly no stranger to strategic approaches to these longer races, that's for sure, Matt Danson.
He's got a lot of laps left. There's 65 laps to go. It's a long time. Probably got another couple of cautions in us too. But at the moment, everything seems pretty single file. And these guys sort of showing a bit more respect this run. And we might get a long green flag run.
Yeah, hopefully we do. Hopefully we do. Just watching, was watching Ryan Jones. He got right up onto the back of Raymond Yeager there before, and there was nearly contact between the two of them. But they've sorted that out on the lid. But I think the battle for second place is the one at the moment, because I think that just watching, it looks as though Gavin Sadler might be just holding Dave Douglas up a little bit, and Dave's got a really nice run out of turn 2, and he's got underneath Sadler. But what he needs to do is he needs to try and it's not so much about the line that Dave's going to take. He's got to try and actually get Sadler to run a line that doesn't work, and he's got to do that by sort of pushing him around the track and really bullying him and bossing him and trying to do something with that. But Gavin's been around a while. It's going to be very difficult for him to do that. So I think that Dave might have a bit of a pace advantage at the moment, but not as much as he actually needs to get a move done.
No, and he's falling back into the clutches of 4th place too. So yeah, it's definitely frustrating. This is what I was talking about earlier. The frustration is just can't get around them. Doesn't matter if you're faster. It's very hard to get around them.
Yeah, Ryan Jones finding that out as well. And you can see how far Ryan Jones has dropped off the back of Yeager now. He's right with him a moment ago. Tried to run that bottom line, lost all his momentum coming off the turn, and now he's lost a few truck lengths to him, which is exactly what just happened to Dave Douglas on Gavin Sadler. Meanwhile, John Sorensen, he's running around out there in front, wondering what all the fuss is about. He's 0.6 of a second ahead of Gavin Sadler, and it just must seem like a lazy afternoon drive for him.
Yeah, it feels good when you're out front. I think another thing too is, like, even if you are fast and you are trying to battle, you sort of can't, because unless you can sort of pick your moment where you can get to the outside and get a run on the outside, you're just using up your tyres trying to even bother racing on the inside. So it's very frustrating.
And as we work lap 40 now as well, you'd expect if there's another caution, a lot of guys are going to come. If there's going to be anybody, given how difficult it is to actually overtake around here, I am wondering if you're going to see anybody who is who's potentially going to just try and stay out and see if they can actually do anything a little bit different, and try and maybe start the restart from pole. They might be on old tyres, but they'll be starting right up the front, get a good jump, get to that top line, and be able to hold the guys on new tyres back until such point as the low line no longer works, and then actually maybe be able to hold off the field for a victory. So don't be surprised to see someone try that. And just looking back at we know the ballistic racing guys often try somewhat adventurous strategies, and quite often it does work out well for them. So we see Tristan Koch is out there at the moment. I think Barrington's 2 laps down. So don't be surprised to see something a little bit different from Koch if we go yellow again.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at the lead too. That seems to be sort of heating up. And Dave Douglas all over now. Gavin Sadler, he's actually trying to make the pass or get onto the outside over the front stretch. Just couldn't do it. Just only missed a good run off turn 4. We'll see what he does this lap.
How long until Dave gets the bumpers out, you reckon?
Well, it looked like he was trying last lap. Here he goes again to the outside.
Yeah, he certainly won't want to wreck Gavin. There's enough respect between these guys that they're not going to want to do that. But certainly if one car is held up behind another, you're up behind another driver and you can't get the move done, it's not uncommon in stock car racing to use the bumper a little bit to actually get that move done. But let's see what happens anyway. I'd say that, as we said earlier on, I think Dave's got a little bit of a pace advantage. Whether or not he can get that overlap on the outside to get a move done remains to be seen, because Gavin's very, very handy at placing the rear end of that truck.
Well, he might have it here, might he? No. I know Raymond Yeager actually slapped the wall coming off turn 2 last lap too. But Dave's just trying that one groove higher. He's got a good run here. I think he's on the
great run. He's just pushed it through that hole, hasn't he? And right around. And that's going to allow Doherty down there as well. Gets a bit of a tank slapper on. I don't think he's going to get the move done as a result of that. But Dave Douglas just shooting it through that tunnel up there by the wall. And with the pace that he's got, he is really going to fancy his chances of running down Sorensen. And caution's out. Just trying to look back through the field and find out who that was. See what actually caused that incident.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I'm just scanning the field now.
I can see Mackenzie driving around with a bit of damage on. I'm not sure if it was him or not. But in any event, we are under caution again. And I would imagine you're going to see everybody come to the lane. I think Terry Marwood's just disconnected, so he may have potentially been involved. Though no, he isn't in the race, so he may have been spotting for someone. I think Dwayne Priest has actually just taken that truck behind the wall, so he could have been involved himself.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've got nothing on my screen. It all looks clean, so I'm not too sure what happened there. But if Dwayne Priest has taken his truck behind the wall, that might say something.
Yeah, maybe he'll jump in the chat and let us know what actually took place. But anyway, looking back at the front, everybody taking to the pit lane now. Sorensen, our leader, running down to the pit lane. So we'll keep an eye on him, make sure he stops nice on his marks. He does, as does most of the trucks behind him. So he'll take service here. There shouldn't be too much that anybody else is able to do about getting around him. So as he just finishes off that tyre change, it looks as though Riley Curtis is coming through there. Now, Riley, I believe, is a good few laps down, so we don't have to worry about him so much. But the race off pit road was awful tight between Sadler, Doherty and Douglas, and I think Douglas has lost a couple of spots there.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it. Yes, Doherty and Sadler did get him. Yeah,
Douglas back to 4th, so I'm not sure if he made a bit of an error or there's some sort of, maybe just had a slow stop, but he's come out, he's lost a couple of spots, and after all the work that he put in to get around Sadler, he's now going to have to do it again, and he's going to have to try and get by Doherty as well. We've got Raymond Yeager's dropped a good few spots as well. I'm not sure exactly why that was. Maybe just another bad stop, and got Jason Williams in there as well. We've got Jason Nicholas, who's come up a good few spots. So we'll just take a look at the positions when they reset as they come over the line, and we'll be able to tell you exactly who's running where after that round of pit stops.
Yeah, and the other bad thing about Dave, if he is in 4th, which I think he is, he'll be restarting on the outside, so he obviously lose a few more positions on that inside run that he won't be getting. But you can also sort of gauge maybe the leader, because he'll be right behind 2nd place too, so he might get a good shot, see what happens. Yeah,
we'll see what he can do. You got a good restart last time, so we'll see what he can do. But Sorensen continues to lead this one from Gavin Sadler, who's placed now. Ben Doherty, as we mentioned, getting up to 3rd past Dave Douglas. Then we're looking at Dave Douglas, as mentioned, Michael Skurlock, and that man again, Matt Danson, sat there in P6 now. Ryan Jones there in P7, Aaron Wilton, Stephen Williams, Jason Williams, no relation as far as I know, and Jason Nicholas there running in 11th position. So, yeah, well, field shuffles up again.
It does. Also, Jason Williams, you know, he's sitting there 2nd in the championship, so in 10th place. We'll have to keep an eye on him too, as this race sort of at lap 47 now, so almost halfway.
Yeah, definitely getting up to halfway, and it looks as though, just if you caught that piece of replay there we showed a little bit earlier, as though Dwayne Priest just got into the wall, plain as that, and that's why we're under caution at the moment.
That solves that mystery then.
All right, so I believe we should be going one to go this time. There's a few trucks out there that are trying to get a lap back. We see Mackenzie there, we see Riley Curtis there, as we spoke about, and those guys are going to be shooting past the pace car now to take up their positions at the back of this field, going one of their laps back, but unfortunately for those guys, there's still quite a few to gain back. And John Sorensen will assume his position once again inside row one, the position that belongs to the leader, and Gavin Sadler will roll onto the outside of him. And if he can get a good start, who knows? We might see Sadler leading this thing. I imagine that Sorensen is probably going to go early just to shore up that leading position. And what happens behind him is anyone's guess. We'll find out in a few moments.
Yeah, you sort of definitely seem to be safe if you sort of take off early in the lead and get out into the lead and wait for second and third, fourth to sort of battle each other. You sort of pull that gap and you can sort of maintain that gap, which is what we've been seeing. So a lot of the mistakes are sort of coming on pit lane. Well, it wasn't Claude's fault, sort of getting tagged in the air and getting the speeding penalty. But it looks like if you've got the lead, that's where you want to be at the moment. Definitely in the lead.
Yeah, with its speed so hard to overtake, not surprised that that'd be the best place to be. But as we come up to the restart now, everybody's bunching up a little bit, getting nice and close there and waiting for Sorensen to lead them away. So he goes now. Sadler actually gets away very well, manages to tuck in behind him without losing other spot, without even looking like he's going to lose another spot. Doherty got away very well. It looks as though he's going to slot in just up there ahead of Dave Douglas. Douglas is going to try and get that high line to work, but I don't think it's going to work this early in the run. I think he's going to be consigned to fourth place. And just looking back a bit behind them, we've got Matt Danson, who's looking to the outside of Skurlock at the moment, and Skurlock just getting wise to that and covering that off. Doherty, unfortunately, not exactly where he's going to want to be. He's going to be wanting to find a gap and move up into that top row pretty soon. That's exactly what he's trying to do. He just bails out of it. He still hasn't been able to get it done. And this may give Douglas the opening he needs to get around his outside.
Yeah, we'll have a look at through turn one if he can hold it down the bottom. I'm not sure if he can. Actually, I gave 5 laps for these tyres on the bottom lane, but it looks like they can't get through one lap.
I think that high groove has really started to get some rubber down on it now, and has actually come in a little bit nicer. So I think the length of time which you can survive down on that bottom lane is actually less than it was. So as we saw there, Douglas and indeed Skurlock being able to make moves around the outside of Ben Doherty, and Doherty slots back in their 5th position with Douglas up to 3rd and Skurlock up to 4th.
Yeah, off that restart, looked like Sadler was pretty much on the defensive straight away, like hogging that inside lane, trying to get down there and block that run, which seems to have done pretty well at the moment. So we'll see what happens in this run, see if it's going to be a long green flag run or not. But yeah, pretty much halfway now, at 51.
And Ryan Jones lost a ton of momentum trying to go around the inside of Doherty there. Almost fell into the clutches of Danson, had to throw a bit of a block to stop that run. Danson, wise to that, just backed out of it. And you just see Jaeger, who's stuck there down on there on bottom at the moment. And it looks as though he's going to get gobbled up by those 2 Illusion Motorsports trucks. Got to get used to saying that now. Wilton, and I believe it is that Williams in behind them as well. Okay, so just back to the front, as it were. Sorensen still leads over Gavin Sadler and Dave Douglas. So are we going to see what we saw in the last run? Douglas really climbing all over the back of Sadler, and just with the speed that he was showing sort of in the middle of that last run, you kind of get the impression that if Douglas can clear Sadler and he can clear him without burning off too much of his tyres, you almost get the impression that he's got enough speed to go after Sorensen as well. So it's certainly not Sorensen's race as yet, although I'd rather be in his shoes than anybody else's at this point.
It looked to me on the last run that Sadler and Douglas did actually catch up with Sorensen as the longer that sort of run went on. When they started to race each other, they sort of lost ground again.
Yeah, certainly. And they're just coming around to lap Darren McKenzie, who's still trying to limp around with that damage that he's got on that truck from that earlier incident. So unfortunate for him that he wasn't able to play a bigger part in this one, because he certainly had enough speed to definitely be sort of up there or thereabouts with the group of cars that's lapping him at the moment. But We got Douglas. He was just compromised a little bit there, not being able to get down onto the apron because of that lap truck of Mackenzie, and he'll just continue to work away on the back of Sadler. But Sadler really starting to close in now on Sorensen as well, really starting to home in on the back of that number 64. And could we see a change for the lead in Gavin Sadler's favour at the moment?
Yeah, the group picked up 0.3 of a second. Dave Douglas almost clicks the wall off turn 2. I was just going back to have a look at that. No damage there. But yeah, they are catching Sorensen.
And Douglas and Skurlock's coming as well, isn't he? I think that Douglas does actually have a little bit of damage on the side of that truck, but I'm not sure if he did it then or if it was something from a little bit earlier on. But there definitely looks to be a ripple on the side of that number 10. But Skurlock seems to almost be the fastest of the four at the moment. He's really closed up. And as we say, going around the outside, taking that position away from Ryan Jones as well. So easily to the outside there and through. Another position for Matt.
Douglas is going to get a great run coming off turn 4. He picked up a lot of ground in turn 3. Oh, see if he can pull this move off again.
Oh, he's nearly done it again, hasn't he? Shot it through that tunnel. Gavin just keeps almost teasing him with a bit of a, just leaving his truck a little way off the wall. I'm not sure if he's doing that to goad Douglas into a move or if he just feels a little bit safer, a bit far from. Running up against the wall is definitely working in Douglas' favour. Douglas had a great run there off 2. Elected not to use it because the only place that he had to go was down the bottom. And you saw what happened to his last time. He has learned his lesson from going down the bottom last time. And he's going to try and get that move done. It's going to be up by the wall or not at all for Dave Douglas, I think.
Yeah, now they're just switching places now. Douglas on the inside. So he can't get it done that time. It was very close last time around. So he just needs a good run. Probably needs to stay off him a little bit, about a truck length away from him through turns 3 and 4 and see if he can just get that good run on the high side.
But if he does leave that length, away, then is that going to give Sadler enough time to actually cover when he sees him coming? So it's so hard to know what to do in either of their shoes at the moment. Sadler seems to just be not quite as comfortable right up there against the wall as Douglas is, and maybe Douglas can sort of. And Skurlock's just sitting there behind going, I do not want a piece of this at all. I do not want to get involved with these two. Dave into the wall. Dave's rubbed the wall again, hasn't he?
Yeah, he did just very slightly there. That's another thing too, like Skurlock probably did a great thing holding back because if you're sort of right up there racing right behind each other, if one car sort of gets up into the wall and slows down, you can easily end up at the back of it.
So Dave Douglas there running the extra risk of running up against the wall. It was working for him on pace, but it has cost him a little bit of an incident there, given Gavin Sadler some breathing space, that is for certain. So that'll give Gavin Sadler the opportunity to just sort of calm down now. He doesn't have to worry too much about what's behind him for the next couple of laps at the very least, and he can actually focus on getting some runs in on Sorensen, making back some of that gap. Gavin Sadler is still running a little bit lower off the turns than I think he might, but whatever seems to be working for him, it's he's getting it done. So he's the one up there in second place at the moment. Just looking back there a little bit further in the field as well, we've got Matt Danson really looking to get a bit of overlap on Doherty. Looks as though he may have actually got that, and we might see a bit of a move there from Danson. He's definitely got that outside track on Doherty, forced Doherty low, and it looks as though he's just going to round him up there around the outside and take that 5th position. He's also got an excellent run on Skurlock. He's going to go to the bottom. I'm not sure that this is going to work for him. Hasn't worked for anyone else, but we'll see what he can do. And no, just appears, although he's made a pretty good fist of it, hasn't he?
Yeah, it was a very good effort.
He's made it much, but I thought he was going to lose a ton of momentum coming out of turn 4. Then he only lost a little bit in the end, and there's certainly there's going to be other opportunities to get that done for Matt Danson. It looks like he's carrying a ton of speed at the moment, especially with Skurlock running as low as he is. Skurlock's running quite a way away from the wall.
Yeah, and just as we've been talking, I mean, when the 71 of Sadler and Dave were sort of battling, they let Sorensen get out there to a half-second lead, but Gavin's been managed to pull this in by about a 10th a lap. Only 3/10 behind last lap around. We'll see what he gets through this time.
Okay, it looks as though Skurlock may have actually just let Danson go there. He's really just moved down, given Danson the line, and I think Danson running close to the wall on the entry of the turns and just about anyone else. Safer maybe running up against it, but yeah, they're all kind of running this very similar gap between the top 4, that's for sure. Top 5 and 6 actually. But they are... Oh, we're caution again. We're under caution. And I think, possibly, we may have seen Callow involved in that one. I'm not 100% sure. I just saw Callow get on the radio.
Jason Nicholas is involved. Jason Nicholas has just gone around, coming out of turn 2. He's up into the wall, and he sort of spins down the back stretch.
Okay, my apologies to Callow. I thought that he may have been involved in it just due to the fact he came on the radio almost immediately after the incident. I wasn't able to catch what he actually said. So looks as though Jason Nicholas has come to grief, unfortunately for him. It's the first time we've seen him back in this series for a while, and it's not really gone the way he wanted. But everybody diving to the pits, it looks like. Yes, Sorensen making the call as the leader to come to the pit lane, and absolutely everybody else following him.
Yeah, we're coming to crunch time now. 35 laps to go. These guys know how important it is. Look at Danson there on the inside of Dave Douglas, trying to get every spot he can on the lane there. We'll see what happens when he comes out of the lane.
Yeah, he seemed to get a bit of an overlap on Douglas there, didn't he? So we'll see what Danson's able to do if he's able to shoot out of the pits ahead of Douglas. It was certainly very close between the two of them. And just while we're doing that, just it looks. Yeah, Danson. Oh, it's going to be very close with him coming out, isn't it? Oh, and Sadler's come right out in front of Douglas. It's as close as that, and it looks as though it's going to be Sadler, Danson, then Douglas, I think, looking at that. How close is that?
Yeah, it's been some great battles off pit road.
Been some of the best racing off pit road I think I've seen for a long time. It's been close for that second place every single time, but I just thought I'd go back and touch on Matty Clerk. He was your pole sitter, and we saw him get shunted in the back and potentially given a speed penalty in his pit stop, and he's actually taken that truck behind the wall 42 laps down now, so unfortunate result there for our pole sitter.
And I think the damage there in the rear end of him has caused Jackson Callow unable to sort of perform at the moment. He's sitting there back in 10th, but he's got a fair amount of front-end damage, which I think was caused from that accident coming to pit road. And
in terms of the championship battle as well, Michael Skurlock, who's joint top of the point standings at the moment with Jason Williams, just to give you an update on those guys. Michael Skurlock sitting there in moment, up there in the top 5. He's been running around about there for most of the race. And Jason Williams, who started way down in 16th, he's up to 11th. So he's made a few positions. But realistically, his motivation tonight has got to be to finish in front of Skurlock. And at the moment, he is sacrificing a few points for him. But he's been one of those guys this season that every time, he's sort of run around about there. At one point in the race or another, around about sort of 12th. And then at the end, he just sort of pops up and he comes up with a good finish. Inherits something from a wreck or just manages to keep his nose clean. So he'll be wanting to make some inroads anyway on Skurlock, but right now things are working out better for Skurlock than for him.
Yeah, they are. And Skurlock, he seems to have a decent, I reckon, a top 3 car, truck, based on that last run. I know he did give up some positions to Danson, but yeah, he's definitely got a good truck behind him.
Well, Danson's making moves, isn't he? And he's up to 3rd position now. He's sort of consistently shown throughout the race that he's got the pace to make moves. He can make the bottom line work to a certain extent. We saw him put up a much better fight on the bottom line than a couple of the others had. And additionally to that, on the entrances of the corners, on the entry to 1 and the entry to 3, he seemed to be willing to run a lot closer to the wall and therefore widen his entry up a lot more than some of the other guys. So maybe that's something worth watching as well. It's definitely going to be better for his tyres, but it's going to do something for his speed as well. So I would be, if I was Sorensen, I'd be keeping a very wary eye on what Matt Danson does off this restart.
Yeah, so would I. If he times it well, he's going to get that good inside run too. And we are 1 to go now. The guys got the lights off. Cars are sort of getting back 2 by 2, and we're ready to go racing soon. And
just talking about the points, we did touch on that earlier on. Let's not forget that Matt Danson's only 5 points off the championship lead, so he's right there in the hunt as well. And so what he does tonight can also have big bearings on those championship standings.
Yeah, definitely. Sitting there back there, he's only 5 points out. So, yeah, good result here, and we can see what happens.
All right, so as they come around once more to pace car go off and the race will get underway again, it will be up to John Sorensen to decide exactly when that is. But these drivers all getting ready to go. You can see them all getting quite bunched up. Apart from Skurlock's leaving a bit of space there. Maybe he's knows something we don't, but he wants to stay out of trouble, certainly in the position that he's in at the moment. And Sorensen, his teammate, goes from the lead. Sadler away very well, actually. It looks like he's going to be able to close down Danson, although Danson comes back around him on the inside. And if Danson's forming the low line's been anything to go by, he may actually get this move done here on turn 1.
Yeah, I think he will. He's definitely going to clear him. Dave Douglas seems to be held up there. Skurlock with a great run now on the inside, coming down the back stretch. We'll see if he can stick to that inside lane through turns 3 and 4. But I don't think with the sort of the gap up there between the 71 and Douglas, he's going to be able to do this.
Yeah, he's not really got anywhere to slot in there, does he?
3 wide.
Just going 3 wide, so that's going to compromise Skurlock's pace even more because he's just got that less track to work with than some of the other guys. Sadler's fighting hard. He's doing his absolute best to sit there on the inside of Danson and really kind of switch back on him. But is it going to be too little too late? It looks as though Danson's really powering off those turns quite well and does so. So he's taken over P2. And it looks as though Skurlock has been able to find a little gap and slot up there ahead of Dave Douglas as well. So P4 for Skurlock at the moment, Sadler P3, Danson P2, and Sorensen, as he has been for so much of this race so far, P1.
Yeah, but that's the last person he wanted to see behind him was now Danson. We'll see if Danson can sort of close the gap and see if he can actually make this pass.
Ryan Jones in the wall. Sorry to cut you off. Ryan Jones has just taken a big rub up against the wall. He got together with Stephen Williams, and that put a lot of drag onto that truck. Stephen Williams just sort of, I don't think it was intentional, but he's just edged him up there into the wall, but hasn't cost him too much as he's just trying to get back around the outside of Williams once more. They get into each other, they touch again. I'd imagine he's not too happy about that, and they made bash panels another couple of times before this one's over.
Yeah, they might just do. We'll have a look at him going into turn 1. Well, they're giving a lot of space. So it looks like Williams are going to not quite clear him as they get into each other again.
So yeah, he's really kind of put the manners on Jones there. Slid right up in front of him with about a cigarette paper's width between them, and so it looks as though Williams has been able to keep that position for the time. But
yeah,
look at Steve. Sorry, Daniel, just saying, look at the battle back at the front once more because we've got Sadler all over the back of Danson. And so Danson hasn't been able to really make too much of a run at Sorensen as yet. And Sorensen must be feeling a bit like a sitting duck at the moment. He's got the lead and it's very hard to pass. He knows that. He's led for so long. He knows how to lead this race, but he's got 2 very fast trucks bearing down on him at the moment.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Danson does this. You'd think... I don't know if he can do it on the inside, but he might be able to. He's got the experience too. But yeah, Gavin Sadler, he's right behind Danson there on the top lane, right behind him. He racy. He has all night though. And
Dave Douglas doesn't seem to have the pace that he's not making much of an impression on these guys. It really does appear to be a 3-truck race here at the front currently. So Danson just looks as though he's just sort of trying to size up Sorensen at the moment. Sadler trying to go with him, but it just appears as though Danson is just getting these big runs forward, this momentum that he's building up that the 2 trucks around him can't actually live with at the moment. So Sadler's kind of taking advantage of when Danson has to back out of that one of those runs because he's not got the line he wants or something like that. But in terms of the one who's actually got the ability to make those big momentum runs, your money would be on Danson at the moment. Just as I say that, Sadler looks to the inside and loses a bit of momentum on that front too.
Danson now pops out to the outside. I don't know if they're going to touch the very close. Just can't do it. Looks on the inside again, but he'll relinquish that back to the top lane. See if he can get a good run coming out of turn 2.
Well, if Sorensen can stay right up by the wall and not let... Because look what Danson's trying to do. He could have that run down the inside right now, and he could pull right up alongside Skurlock, but he's... not Skurlock, Sorensen, sorry, but he's not. What he wants to do is he really wants to get that number 30 truck in between the 64 and the wall. Look at him. He's trying to do it again. He's trying to do it again. And what Sorensen needs to do, and it might be too late for him now, but Sorensen needs to, at all costs, stay up by that wall and leave no space whatsoever. If he leaves a truck width there, like he's doing at the moment, around the outside, Danson is just going to take it. And Danson has taken it anyway. He's got the bumper out, and it looks as though Sorensen has tried to move up a little bit on Danson. I might just try to dissect that. Go back, if you can keep watching the live, Danny. I'll just go back and try and dissect what's taking place there, because definitely the bumpers came out.
Yeah, it did. We got Danson still continues to lead this race. He's got Gavin Sadler right behind him though, and I think Gavin's got actually quite a bit of pace left in his truck.
So yeah, just watching the incident with Sorensen again, and Sorensen's left the top open, which he really didn't need to do. And he's just not running as close to the wall as he perhaps needed to, and that's let Danson get around the outside. But that being said, Danson's tried to force his way through a hole, and he didn't get it done. There was still overlap on those trucks. I don't think that Sorensen's actually moved up. There was still overlap on those trucks, and Danson's just kept the foot in and got Sorensen loose, and he's taken that position. So I'm not sure necessarily that Sorensen's going to be overly happy.
Meanwhile, back up front, Danson still continues to lead. So they maintain sort of the 2-truck car length between them. He's 2.5 tenths behind, led by Michael Skurlock and Dave Douglas. Stephen Williams in 5th.
Yeah, just touching on that incident again, it's a bit hard to. It looks as though like Sorensen has. Danson had the space at the top to go through. There was definitely a truck width there for Danson to go through, but for whatever reason, Danson caught the corner of Sorensen and then just kept the boot in, and was quite happy. It appeared from outside at the very least. It appeared as though he was very happy for Sorensen to go around, but we are under caution again.
And that looks like the 15 of Ricky Cornwall. Something's happened to him. Him and Jackson Callow actually got into each other in turns 3 and 4. Looks like the 15 was into the wall, and Callow sort of ended up running into the back of him and creating a mess out of turn 4.
Okay, so what actually happened there? Did Cornwall just lose it on his own? It appears that way.
Yeah, it looks like they were racing side by side down the backstretch. Cornwall's gone in pretty deep actually into turn 3, and he's come up and collected the wall. And like I was saying before, if you're behind another driver who does that, you can end up right into the back of the car in front, which is what happened. It looks like a 2-car incident between the 15 and the 46.
Right. Okay. Well, that's going to cause damage to both of those competitors. Just having a look at Callow, front end of Callow's truck, looking very, very ordinary actually, carrying a lot of damage there. And that's going to, in fact, he's only actually one position behind Sorensen at the moment, who's still looking quite clean, but unfortunately he's dropped all the way back to 12th place from the lead in that incident with Dancer that we were talking about earlier on. And as far as Cornwall was, he just made his way, I believe he was actually a lap down at one stage, but I could be wrong on that, but whatever, he's on the lead lap now, but he's carrying quite a bit of damage himself. So those two drivers definitely got to be compromised for what remains in this race.
Yeah, it was very reminiscent. I think Carl Edwards did this in Kansas actually one year. He went into turn 3 very deep, just couldn't pull it up, whacked up into the wall.
And there's, looked like. Sorry to cut you off, Daniel. There's a big concertina on the entrance to pit lane. Matt Danson was kind of a bit clear of some of the guys back 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, those kind of positions, but everyone kind of concertinaed up on their way in, and I don't believe there was any contact, but we don't really need any more pit lane contact tonight, I don't think.
No, we don't, but great races off pit road. We'll probably get another one here. We'll see what happens. Anson's coming out now. See where Sadler ends up. Well behind, actually.
Yeah, he's got Sadler, hasn't he? He's got Sadler, and looks as though Skurlock's got Sadler, and Doherty's got Sadler as well. So it's going to be Danson, Doherty, and Skurlock coming out in that order.
Looks like Doherty's actually only taken 2 tyres.
Okay, I wonder if Danson did the same thing then, because Doherty was not a long way down by any stretch, I don't believe, going into that pit stop. He was 8th. He's made a good few spots, but I would have expected him to come out well in the lead if he'd only taken 2. Alright, so yeah, only a 9-second stop there from Doherty, so you could be quite right, but I'm just surprised he didn't actually gain more. But whatever, he's up there in P2, he's taken the gamble. At least under caution, he's going to get the opportunity for his tyre pressures to, because one of the things that you do find is if you pit for 2 cold tyres, the pressures are down, and you've got 2 tyres on there where the pressures are right up, it makes the car very unbalanced through the turns. So at least under the caution, they're going to get time to cool those tyres down. The tyre pressure is going to normalise across all 4 of them, and hopefully he's able to make that work. It's a brave move, but I like to see brave strategy calls, so I hope it works out for him.
Yeah, and just remember that entry to pit road on that occasion, sort of, there's a massive gap between 1st and 5th, and I think that's where the time was actually lost. and that's how he came out second there.
Right. Okay. So he may have even come out first if not for that big gap between the trucks entering pit road. But just having a look as well, Braden Bullis has rejoined the circuit. He is 3 laps down currently. We saw him drop out with those connection issues earlier on. And with only 20 laps to go, I'd be surprised to see him make that back. But he certainly won't make it back on pace, but he may make it back in terms of cautions and so on. So hopefully we don't get 3 cautions between now and the end of the race. But there has been a few incidents so far, so I guess anything's possible. And he'll certainly be hoping for that himself.
And I can only imagine sort of the end of this race now, getting down to 15 laps to go, probably when they get green, it's going to be pretty intense. But I'm interested to see what these 2 tyres can do, because if you're using the top lane anyway, the left sides might not actually matter that much. And if he just wants to use the top, yeah, they might not actually come into effect. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, well, as mentioned, I do like seeing differential strategies. It's certainly a lot more interesting to watch and exciting to see someone try something a bit different than everybody just go running down the pit lane for 4 tyres on every single caution. So you tend to see that quite a lot in the official racing. Everybody goes for tyres, but somebody's trying something different. So I'm glad to see that, and hopefully it's something that works out well for him. And we might see a few more. If it does, we might see a few more mixed strategies as the season goes on.
Yeah, I mean, normally the 2-tyre strategy doesn't work, but this type of track with the top lane, it's going to be interesting. I'll be very interested to see actually how he does this. If he can sort of get a good run here. It's all going to depend on this sort of front run here, and see if actually Skurlock can make any ground on Sadler if he can get to the inside.
And isn't it funny how even with how the cream rises to the top, you know, these 2 guys who were 1-2 in the championship last season, and they're running 2nd and 3rd at the moment, so they've certainly worked their way forward and are looking to give us a good finish here. So everybody bunching up now, ready for the restart. It's Danson. Danson goes now. Doherty goes with him. He's gone quite well, and Gavin Sadler's got quite a good run there on the outside. Will it be enough to do anything about Skurlock there on his inside? I think he might well be, but we'll find out in a couple of turns' time.
I think Skurlock might have been sort of the bigger loser there. I'm not sure if Gadler can sort of sit there behind Doherty. I don't think Skurlock's going to have the run off turn 4 to be able to...
we're going 3 wide. We're going 3 wide. It looks as though Doherty... Oh, he just hasn't quite got the pace there versus brand new, fresh 4 tyres on the outside. There's still 3 wide, going through 3 and 4. Skurlock's just lost a bit of momentum as he was the one on the bottom, but he's going to take to the apron there to try and get that done. And Doherty just hang on to that overlap for all he's worth. And Gavin Sadler manages to move it up the track. So great move from him. And I think we might see Sadler move up into P2 very shortly.
Yeah, he should. He looks like he's going to get a good run off turn 2, which he does. Skurlock slots into the gap. Into the wall, actually.
All right, so a bit of contact there between the 2 championship rivals from last season. And Skurlock's, it looks as though he's just having a bit of blinking there as well. Maybe a couple of little technical issues on his end. I'm not sure if that contributed. I don't think it did. But Danson's still leading this one, and Gavin Sadler doing his absolute best to home in on him as we approach 10 laps to go.
Yeah, sorry, Skurlock's in the wall again, coming off, or sort of going into turn 1 there. But that was a very aggressive move from him, but that's what he needed to do. He needed to get into that gap, and unfortunately it just didn't work out.
No, it certainly hasn't. And while we're watching that, we'll notice that Jason Williams, his championship rival, has just overtaken him. So the 2 guys who are leading the championship, we said that Jason Williams needs to narrow that gap. He's actually overtaken Skurlock with that, but the big winner out of all of that is going to be Matt Danson, almost certainly.
It will, but Gavin Sadler's right behind Danson at the moment. He's going to get a good run off turn 2 down the back stretch. Yeah, so I don't know if Danson's saving his tyres a bit.
I do wonder, though, even if the pace advantage that we're seeing for Sadler at the moment is genuine, he will be using that toe a little bit. I do wonder if Danson will make the error that Sorensen made earlier on about just parking himself a little bit too far off of that wall. I imagine that Matt Danson's going to run much, much tighter to that wall and isn't going to give Gavin any opportunity whatsoever. So we'll see what happens, but it's certainly going to be very difficult for Gavin to make a move, even with the pace advantage it looks as though he has at the moment.
And we got Danson. He is working the tyre side very well there through turn 3. Does he actually give up a little bit of momentum, but I think you're going to see him get that back off turn 4. Although Sadler's had actually had a pretty decent run there too.
Yeah, Sadler's making really good use of those fresh tyres that he's got on. Of course, Danson with fresh tyres as well, but Sadler is really just... I'm not sure if he's going to be able to sustain it through to the end of the race. If we go green to the end, there's going to be a bit of tyre wear on these tyres as we go to 10 But Sadler certainly giving Danson a mirror full of something to think about going to the final stages of this race.
Yes, and we'll see if he's actually learnt anything from trying to fend off Dave Douglas there earlier in the race. He's definitely trying to look at that outside. He'll have a look at it again down the front stretch. No, he tries the inside. I don't think this is going to work.
No, it's not quite yet. But, never say never. And just while we're watching this, these top two have absolutely checked out on everyone else. They are 1.4 seconds ahead of Doherty, who's a further second ahead of Steve Williams. And then they're sort of bunched up and fighting amongst themselves. But we'll stay with this battle for the leaders. It is the battle for the win. We are now less than 10 laps to go. We're working lap 91. And Gav Sadler putting all the pressure that he can, piling it onto Matt Danson. I don't believe that Sadler's won a race in this series as yet. And I think there'd be a number of people who'd be quite happy to see Sadler not to win tonight. But I think there's definitely an equal number of Nexus Esports fans who'd be happy to see Matt Danson get across the line. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, he just seems to be sort of falling off the pace here a little bit. Now the gap's grown out to about 3 truck lengths. I think the longer this sort of run goes, this is sort of pretty much favours Danson. We know he's great on the long runs.
Yeah, and I think we've seen Sadler just tucking in a little bit tighter than Danson's been doing, which may have hurt his tyres slightly. But that being said, Gavin's not he's not falling off massively. He dropped 0.2 back, but he doesn't look as though he's in a position to make an imminent pass at the moment, but he's certainly not getting dropped. So we'll see how the tyre wear plays out for the remainder of the stint.
Something caught that lap. Looks like at least just slightly off a tenth. But he's definitely making good runs off turn 2, and he catches quite a bit in turn 3. But Danson can just sort of like get on the power a little bit more and come off turn 4 a little bit.
Yeah, certainly is. So those two remaining a little bit stagnant at the moment. Just looking a little bit back further, we've got Dave Douglas all over the back of Stephen Williams. We won't stay with this battle for too long because we do want to watch the battle for the lead. But those two at 4th position at the moment. Dave Douglas trying to make all the moves to get around him. And the remainder of the pack seems to be fairly well spread out. There's a bit of a battle going on between Barrington and Robert Northway. But apart from that, it's all fairly well strung out. So we might actually get to see this race finish under green, which would be ideal for everyone, I think.
Yeah, I would think we're just going to have 5 laps to go when they cross the line. So the race is definitely wound down. Doesn't look like Sadler's really catching Danson anymore. I think Danson's pretty much pulled the gap that he needs to sort of get this done.
Yeah, he certainly has. There's about 5 truck lengths separating them at the moment. The gap's out to 0.3, which is the biggest it's been since the restart. So with only 4 to go, unless Sadler's actually got something in hand, he hasn't showed his put all his cards out. I'd say that Danson's probably going to take this one, but never say never. It's not over until the very last lap, and it could come down to that between these two drivers.
Good. Meanwhile, back in 3rd, it's a very good battle here. Dave still trying to get on the inside of Stephen Williams there, but this, they've definitely put Ben Doherty now. He's on the older tyres, or the left side tyres anyway. These guys are right on the back of him, trying to get around. All
right, just been let know by Josh Mickelmore, who's down there in the Nexus Esports, no longer a functioning team, but it's still sitting there on the back of Matt Danson's tailgate. So maybe he needs to put a bit of tape over that or something like that, and stop confusing the poor old fellas up here in the commentary box.
That gap for the lead, that's grown out to 0.5 of a second now. 3 laps to go.
Okay, these guys, certainly that gap stretching at the front. I don't think...
Oh, sorry, Edward. Dave Douglas almost into a wreck there.
Oh, he's managed to gather
it up. Looks like getting on the outside.
Yeah, managed to gather it up. He's there, it just resumes his position.
I think Doherty got up into the wall coming off turn 2. They looked like they were on the outside of Stephen Williams. Looked like he was going to give up a few positions. And then Doherty got into the wall, and Dave Douglas in the back of Doherty.
Yeah, there's a fair bit of damage on Doherty's truck, that's for sure. And I think Dave Douglas carrying a little bit more than we saw previously as well. So those guys just try to get to the line now. We can see Wilson going around the outside of Douglas. So I think that damage is not helping his pace whatsoever. And we may see him lose another couple of positions before this one's over.
Yeah, he can't even hold the sort of the pace on the outside lane there. It's no good. As we
All
go
right,
into the
so final lap. Yeah, final lap. Danson leading from 0.8 of a second over Gav Sadler. So this one looks reasonably settled, barring some disaster for Matt Danson.
Yeah, but a good run by Sadler. I think he's going to be pretty impressed with this and proud of himself. He's pretty much up there all night in top 2, top 3. Yeah, good run. But yeah, congratulations to Matt Danson. Comes through turn 4 now and going to take the checkered flag.
Yeah, fantastic run from him, wasn't it? Started from 20th position, got that win done. And we were saying earlier on how hard it was to pass here. So anyway, so he's got that win done. Gavin Sadler crosses the line, second place. Excellent work from him. Great to see him up there. Stephen Williams will take third after that little bit of an incident at the end between Doherty and Dave Douglas. Doherty in their fourth. We will run through your complete finishing order after they all cross the line. But a few guys still just running through to the finish now. But one thing is for certain, and that is that Matt Danson has taken out this race, and he's done so in some style.
Yeah, there's a little bit of Rubbin there. Rubbin's racing. I think it was actually pretty good to see. I know he did sort of get into the back of Sorensen there pretty hard, it looked like. But, you know, he was pretty intent to get the lead, and he was showing some aggression there. And once he got to the top 5, and now he's won this race because of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Sorensen's going to be that happy with it. I don't think that that I'd be that pleased in his shoes. But yeah, a bit of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Really, it's a very hard incident to sort of dissect from our point of view. Anyway, it does appear that Sorensen talked about was driving a little bit low, and Danson sort of seen a gap, tried to go through it, didn't quite place the truck quite correctly, and got into the back of Sorensen. But I guess he sort of kept the boot in after that contact was first made. Sorensen's managed to gather it, and Sorensen ended up coming home in 11th position, but certainly not what he would have wanted. But the victory tonight anyway to Matt Danson. So just as these guys are just sort of finishing up, and you see Danson out there pulling the winners' burnouts, and Bullis out there as well for some reason. We'll run through your complete finishing order, and then we'll get on to some post-race interviews. So starting out with your winner, as mentioned, Matt Danson there in first place, 1.4 seconds up the road from Gavin Sadler, finishes second. Then back to Stephen Williams and Ben Doherty, Aaron Wilton, Ryan Jones, Raymond Yeager, Jason Williams pops up there again. He's actually finished ahead of Skurlock that we were talking about earlier on. So we've got Jason Williams, Dave Douglas, who lost all those positions, went all the way back to 9th in that little incident at the end with Doherty. Then Skurlock and the unfortunate John Sorensen there as well. Will Barrington, Robert Northway, Tristan Koch, Ricky Cornwall, Jackson Callow, and Jason Nicholas, rounding out your 17. And those were the only 17 trucks to actually finish on the lead lap. So sort of going back down past them, we've got Latta and Bullis, who were running at the end, I believe. And then we had Cheney and Darren McKenzie, who are definitely still running at the end. And then you're into your retirement. So Damon Stockton, Matt Hunter, Dwayne Priest, Stacey Walker, Riley Curtis, Nick Walsh, Matty Clark, the pole sitter, Chris Purnell, Aaron Dillon, Phil Otto, and Nick Taylor and Brian at Richmond all did not make the end of this race. So unfortunate for those guys, but fortunate for your winner and your top 5. So what did you make of that one, Daniel?
Yeah, it wasn't a bad race. Had a fair few cautions. I would have liked to see some sort of green flag runs there, but had an action-packed and sort of thrills and spills. I think Danson's going to be pretty happy. I'm just sort of uploading the standings now so we can have a look at them. But yeah, overall, not too bad.
Well, certainly advise us of those new revised championship standings when you get a chance, Daniel. But what we will do is we'll just perhaps grab Garrett, grab a couple of drivers up for a bit of a chat. I expect we will see Matt Danson when he's finished his winning burnouts jump up in here. He loves a chat, especially when he wins. And in the meantime, we may grab someone up for a chat. So who would you like to talk to first, Daniel?
Who have we got there? Dave Douglas or Aaron Dillon even? No, Dave Douglas I think was the highest finisher.
Okay, we'll grab Dave Douglas in just while you're updating those points, Daniel. We'll grab Dave Douglas in for a bit of a chat and see how the race turned out from his. Dave Douglas, Edward Foster from the... He's disappeared. He's jumped back out again. Give us a moment. I'll see if I can get him back. Dave Douglas, Edward Foster, streaming Combox. How are you going?
Hey, good, mate, yourself?
Not too bad at all. Not too bad at all. We saw you running fairly well up inside the top five for most of the night until a bit of an incident at the end there. It looked like with Doherty caused you to drop back. What happened there?
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame actually. I noticed those guys got side by side, and I knew I'd get a run on the outside. And then unfortunately, Ben just caught the outside wall, and the run that I had, I mean, there's no way I was going to stop, so I just drove straight in the back of him, and it just killed the aero. So then I thought I'd do the teammate thing and find where Jason Williams was and just give him that spot.
Oh, right. Well, it certainly has helped him, and you managed to get in between him and Michael Skurlock as well. So that's going to be a 2-point turnaround in favour of your teammate, Jason Williams. But we saw you earlier on have quite good pace. Down, it was when Sorensen was out in the lead. You see, you had a great battle with Sadler, and there was that one move where you really managed to get up between Sadler and the wall and just drive it through that tunnel in between Gavin and the fence. So talk us through that one.
Yeah, well, basically just driving up the outside. There was no way I could go underneath him, so I thought I'd just sit behind him and I got as close as I could. Sometimes I was pushing down the straight and just trying to pressure him to make a bit of a mistake. And just one time it just hooked up, and I saw that gap, and I thought I'm just going to go for it, and hopefully he doesn't come back up. And sure enough, he didn't, and I was able to hang on the outside and get the move done. But it took a fair few laps and a fair bit of tyre. But I mean, unfortunately, the caution came out 2 laps later, so it was all for nothing really.
Yeah, we saw quite a couple of close battles off pit road as well. But one of the things that we noticed at that stage of the race is that Gavin was running a little bit lower on the track than you were, and you seemed to be quite comfortable running right up there against that wall. But then it seemed to bite you on a couple of occasions. You just managed to get into it, and there was a little bit of damage there as well. So, and after that, your speed didn't necessarily seem what it was in the early part of the race. Was it the damage that was due to, or was it some other factor?
Nah, mate, you're 100% correct. Unfortunately, I did catch that wall, and I had about 13 seconds optionals, but I just had to run with it. There's no way I was going to give up that track position. But yeah, it definitely affected it. As you could see, like to make any time on the leaders, every lap had to be perfect. And I was making some time when I started the battle, but yeah, it was just too much in the end to catch them and have a bit of a fight.
All right. Well, came home ninth in the end. Probably expected a little bit better, but then again, from an 18th on the grid starting position, not too bad to actually halve that position. So, just while you are here, is anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, definitely. RCD Motorsports, the guys there, Riley, and the rest of the guys, and Blokes Advice Racing for coming on board. And I think that's probably about it, to be honest.
All right, no problems at all. So that was Dave Douglas there, guys. Your ninth place finish there tonight in the number 10. And just having a look, there's a few guys there. It's down in the green room at the moment, Daniel. But do you have some updated points for us?
Yes, I definitely do. So with that win, Matt Danton now has taken the lead by 3 points over Jason Williams, 5 points over Michael Skurlock, Jackson Callow 18 points back in 4th, and Chris Purnell now 33 points back down in 5th.
Hasn't it been a shocking couple of rounds for Chris Purnell? But what we might do is we might grab our race winner, new championship leader. The world must seem perfect at the moment from Matt Danson's point of view. So we'll grab him in for a bit of a chat. And do you want to do the honours, Dan?
Sure. Matt Danton, new Truck Series points leader. How are you?
I'm quite well. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you very much. Starting from the rear again, another great run to the front. Tell us about your night.
I started at the back, gave myself something to do, and I could tell early on in that first run it was only short, but I could see that the pace was there. But obviously it's tough as hell to pass, and just sort of had to keep out of any trouble and work my way forward. Once the tyres, once we got 5, 6, 7 laps in the tyres, I was just eating them alive. So I was looking forward to that.
Yeah, speaking of sort of hard to pass, we did notice that throughout the race. We sort of know that about Kansas. You had a bit of contact there with Sorensen, but Sorensen up the top at the front of the race. What happened there? Did you get in the back of him, or just got too much of a run there on the high side?
It was weird because in that moment there was no contact that came up on mine. But certainly looking back on it, it does look like I got into his what's that, right rear, just a touch. So I'm not sure if it was like a bit of net code or what the deal was, but yeah, not the way I want to do it. But to be fair, I was blocked pretty severely up to the wall on that run down the front stretch. So it's I don't know, these things happen.
Yeah, Robin's racing pretty much like I called it. Well, all right then. Yeah, well, good race tonight. Is there anyone you'd like to sort of shout out to?
You know who I'm going to shout out to? It's all me. It's all me, boys. It's a pleasure to watch my races back. I'm glad you guys broadcast these because it makes my Monday nights super enjoyable to see me work my way through the field and then celebrate a different way each time. So I've got to think of something else for next week.
Awesome, sounds good. We'll have to see a Polish victory lap out there. But yeah, back on top of the points championship with only, I think, 5 races to go. So it's going to be an interesting one here on out. Congratulations tonight, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. So that was your race winner and new points leader, Matt Danson. They're obviously very happy with his efforts tonight, as he usually is. So anyway, we've probably got time for one more interview. We've got a few guys down there in the green room at the moment waiting for a chat. And just thinking with Raymond Yeager there coming home in 7th position tonight, it might be a good opportunity to bring him up and have a bit of a chat. Mr. Yeager, 7th place finish tonight. How'd the race pan out from your point of view?
Yeah, made a few errors, unfortunately, which put me back on pit stops mainly. But overall, it was pretty uneventful. Didn't hit too much, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, always a good thing to try and keep your nose clean, especially in a race where so many drivers didn't manage to do that. So you've come up from 13th on the grid. You've finished in 7th, a nice solid top 10 finish. And I just wanted to get your opinion a little bit about the way in which that bottom line was working, because I did see you running on the bottom line on a few occasions, and most of the time it appeared as though it was a momentum killer. But some of the time, particularly just off a restart, it almost appeared as though that bottom line was working. So how did it look from your point of view tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it was really good for the first maybe 2 or 3 laps. You could make up a lot of positions on restarts, but it went away real quick, so you had to quickly get back up top. Otherwise, you'd just freight train back.
Yeah, certainly seemed that way. And we saw you in a bit of sort of too wide battling with a few guys throughout the night. It almost appeared as though you barely got a moment's peace with the amount of guys that were running around you. But in terms of, I suppose, that midfield battle, I mean, you had a few good fights and so on. So I think a result that you can be quite happy with, especially on a night when so many other drivers struck trouble.
Yeah, pretty happy with tonight, to be honest. It's been a tough start to the season, had a few incidents, but, got a top 10 tonight, and we'll try and build on that moving.
All right, excellent. So just before we let you go, Raymond, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out?
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, Beast Racing really helping me out with my racing, getting some practice in. Main sponsors of that team's Race Spot, which is always, and obviously you guys for putting on the racing, which is always great.
All right. Well, thanks very much. So that was Raymond Yeager, everybody. Your 7th place finisher tonight, and just as we let Raymond go, and I think Matt Danson summed it up quite well. It was all about him, and it certainly was by the end of the race.
Yeah, it was. Well, he does this all the time. Sort of comes from the back up to the front. It's great to watch. He's very experienced and good at doing it, and I love sort of watching it too. But yeah, very looking forward to next week, round 8, Martinsville, 150 laps there. That's going to be a great one. Short track racing. Should see some beating and banging at that event.
Yeah, certainly should. Certainly should. As always renowned for a bit of banging as well. And the other great thing about that style of racing as well is with the slightly lower speeds, not every piece of contact leads to a caution. You can crash and bash on each other. Rubbin's racing in its absolute purest form. So very much looking forward to Martinsville. I just want to go back a little bit just before we finish up tonight about what Matt Danson said just there at the end about that incident between the two of them, between himself and Sorensen. I would have liked to have actually had the opportunity to speak to Sorensen to see how he actually read that. But do you think between the two of them there might be a bit of a square up in the works?
Well, that's what I'm looking forward to next week for, to be honest.
All right. Well, time will tell, as it always does. So we'll probably leave it there. That's another great race tonight. Fairly eventful. Not a lot of green flag, extended green flag running, but certainly enough action to entertain. So from myself, Danny G, and Carl Whitty, who's been doing the cameras tonight, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you again in a week's time, provided there are no more server issues. We'll see you in a week's time for the next round of the 131 Web Radio ANZCAR Monday Night Truck Series. We'll see you then.